Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, this is a special bonus episode where we will be looking at Netflix 2023 biographical drama called Maestro, which is directed by Bradley Cooper, starring Carey Mulligan, Bradley Cooper, Matt Bomer, Hawke and Sarah Silverman. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thanks for joining me in the middle of Podmas. This is our third bonus episode that we put out during December while we're still putting out an episode every single day in the lead up to Christmas. So bear with me. I've got no voice left. It's been a tough month, but I needed to talk about this one because there's a lot of buzz, awards buzz, a lot of buzz about this film. And I think it's an interesting one to sort of pick up on and discuss. So as always, if you haven't seen the film yet and you're keen on checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because we kick the show off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's based on a true story, based on Leonard Bernstein, who is a musician. So this is his musical rise, fame, his musical rise to fame, I guess, and his life with actress Felicia Monteligo Cohen Bernstein. So it's about his love for her and his love for music. That's where we're at. This has got a good story. Let's talk about how this ended up on Netflix. So the project had been in development at Paramount Pictures, with Martin Scorsese initially planning to direct the film. He stepped down as director to work on The Irishman, allowing Bradley Cooper to join the film in May of 2018 as director and to star as Bernstein. Scorsese continued as producer alongside Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was also initially considering to direct the film too, and had approached Cooper to star, but offered the director position to Bradley Cooper after a screening of A Star is Born. In January of 2020, the project was moved to Netflix. We then go to September of 2020, where the project was given the title Maestro, with Carey Mulligan joining the cast. It was also announced that filming would begin in the spring of 2021. In October of 2020, Jeremy Strong joined the cast as John Gruen, but later dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. Filming was initially expected to begin on April 5th, 2021 in Los Angeles, but instead began in May of 2020. Production was at Tanglewood between May of 21 and 26 and in New York City. Filming also took place at Ely Cathedral in England between October 20 and 2020. Maestro features Bernstein's compositions that were handpicked by Bradley Cooper. Those pieces were performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, with a few choral performances by the London Symphony Chorus, conducted by Yannick Neat-Sugan, who also served as Cooper's conducting coach. The scene in which Leonard Bernstein conducts the London Symphony Orchestra at the Ely Cathedral in 1976, Bradley Cooper said, "That scene I was so worried about because we did it live. I was recorded live. I had to conduct them, and I spent 6 years learning how to conduct 6 minutes and 21 seconds of music. I was able to get the raw take where I just watched Leonard Bernstein conduct at the cathedral, so I had that to study." Crazy. And this is, him talking up his awards campaign too, I guess. The project got the rights to Bernstein's music instead of Cary Joji Fukunaga's Bernstein biopic called The American, which was meant to star Jake Gyllenhaal. So interesting that a lot of, this happens a lot in Hollywood. Films will have the same sort of topic or story and they sort of go into production at the same time too. Maestro premiered at the 80th Venice International Film Festival on the 2nd of September 2023, where it was nominated for the Golden Lion. It received a gala screening as part of the New York Film Festival Spotlight program on October 2nd, 2023, making it the first film to hold a premiere at the new David Geffen Hall. Cooper attended the event but did not participate in the post-film Q&A due to restrictions imposed by the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. Additionally, Maestro screened at the BFI London Film Festival and closed the AFI Fest as well. The film began a limited theatrical release in the USA on November 22nd, 2023, before streaming on Netflix on December 20, 2023. IndieWire estimated that the film made about $200,000 from 8 theaters in its opening weekend, and a total of $300,000 over the 5-day Thanksgiving frame, which would make it the most successful debut for Netflix since around 2019. Cooper's use of a large prosthetic nose to portray Bernstein, who was Jewish, was criticized by some as an example of Jewface, following the release of photographs from the set of the film in May of 2023 and the subsequent release of the trailer in August. The chief television critic of The Hollywood Reporter, Daniel Feinberg, criticised the casting of Cooper along with the British Mulligan as a Costa Rican Chilean converted Jew as a lot of ethnic cosplay for one movie. Bernstein's children actually defended Cooper's use of prosthetic makeup to portray him, stating that they worked with Cooper throughout the filming process and that their dad would have been fine with it. So huge story, huge, interesting, lots of interesting stuff there. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to all of that. Translations for this film around the world. In Japanese, it's called Maestro, His Music and Love. I like that. In Chinese, it's called Master Elegance, True Love Movement. Not sure about that one in Chinese. The working title for this film was Bernstein, and it also had another working title of Ribernia. So I'm not sure about that one. Not sure what that one stands for. As I mentioned before, this did hit Netflix on the 20th of December 2023. So far, it's had 10 wins in the awards season and a further 69 nominations. The biggest nominations so far are at the Golden Globe Awards for Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Motion Picture Drama for Bradley Cooper, as well as Best Director for a Motion Picture for Bradley Cooper, and Best Motion Picture Drama for the film. The Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture as well for Carey Mulligan in a Drama. So quite a few nominations there at the Golden Globes, which will be an interesting thing to keep an eye out for. This one was interesting when I was actually watching it. I think this is worth mentioning that this is the first Netflix original film with a new intro of the Netflix logo too. So I thought that was a cool little pickup and a nice little thing to see moving forward. And Rebel Moon, the Zack Snyder film, also uses this new logo, which came out a couple of days after this on Netflix too. Critical consensus. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, sits at 80% on 256 reviews, so that's fresh, definitely certified. The audience, it sits at 86% on over 500 ratings. On IMDb, sits at a 7.1 out of 10, only on 6,000 ratings so far, which is interesting. Letterboxd sits at a 3.5 out of 5 on 33,500 ratings, but has been logged by about 40,000 people. And on Metacritic, on the traffic light system, it sits at a 77 out of 100 on 59 critic reviews, which is green, and the audience sits at a 7 on 23 reviews, which is also green. So what are my early thoughts on this film? Sorry to say, but I think I'm not a huge fan. I think technically it's excellent. The performance-wise, it's great. It's just a bit of a poor script and the characters that don't feel real. These are based on real people and they don't feel real. So I think that's a big issue for this film. But let's talk about the characters. So we've got to talk about Leonard. It's his film. Maestro is him. He's passionate and he's erratic. He's obviously Jewish. He comes from a Jewish family with high expectations. You know, the father wanted him to continue the family business. He's a survivor, even through, I guess, the painkillers, the drugs, the alcohol. The most passion seen from him, I guess, is for himself. He literally buys tickets for himself. It's such a hard character to like. His obsession with gratification and fame. Take away any sort of empathy you may feel for him, as his choices through life are often flawed. It's fine to tell the story of a flawed man, but hanging around while your wife, who you've treated so poorly throughout most of the film or her life, is dying, it doesn't make a character arc or a more sympathetic character. I guess the idea that to be recognized, he needs to be able to say his work and his life are clean, and he can't say that. So I find him a really problematic character, and maybe that's what they're going for. That's 100% fine. I couldn't believe him. And the same with Felicia. You've got to feel sorry for her. She's caring, and she's that stability in his life. But she's incompatible with Leonard, but holds that public profile for him. She's literally in the wings at all of his shows, admiring his talent, but always in his shadows. He offers her comfort and safety, I guess. And the idea that his smell reminds her of her father, that's what he is. He's just this comfort for her. She's a supporting character in his story, I think. And the film is called Maestro. However, Carey Mulligan is given first billing. So this film could be more about her being the driving focus of him getting to where he is, assisting him in covering up his indiscretions, but at the same time, at what costs to her. And I think the costs are too much, and it's sad, I guess. I know it's based on a true story, so I get it, but I just don't think it was done well. The only other people I'll mention in this film, because it's really about those two, but David is a lover of Leonard, and he plays the clarinet, and I'm not sure whether David and Lenny were supposed to be together, and that's what would have worked in a world that wasn't so homophobic. I'm not sure, I don't know, but I mean, I felt bad for this David guy, and the same for Jamie, the daughter of Felicia and Lenny. She's the daughter or the child with the most screen time and impacted the most by him, and we'll probably talk about her in some of the scenes as we go. All right, Bradley Cooper as the director. This is his second directing feature after A Star Is Born, which was pretty well received. Most of us, or most of the audience, would know him for his 70-plus acting credits. You think about the Hangover films, Silver Linings Playbook, American Sniper, American Hustle, etc., etc., even the voice of Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy. This is what we know him from, and he's obviously trying to step up and move into this writing, producing, directing role as well. All right, let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that I liked, and what are some things that I didn't like in this film? I mean, one of the opening scenes, Lenny's lying in bed. He gets his phone call for his big call up to be the conductor at this show, and the curtains are drawn. It's black and white. He's like, oh, terrible news. But you know he's so excited. Even though there's someone ill, you know he doesn't mean that it's terrible news. He's been living for this moment, so that's obvious. The camera work throughout, I've got to credit it. I mean, it's very, very good. The start following Lenny from the apartment into the theatre, the transitions between Lenny and Felicia on stage, just staying on the couple when they're talking at various stages, all really well done. Lenny brings Felicia to meet David. This was heartbreaking. It was so insensitive and horrible, but it just highlighted what sort of person he was. I think the line about Lenny being, you're the only person I know who keeps the bathroom door open for fear of being alone, again highlights the sort of character he is, scared of being alone. He just wants to impress everyone and be that person that people look up to, I guess. We have a scene where Felicia's sitting at the bottom of the pool because Lenny's just finished this big piece, and then we go to the show and she's watching him holding the guy's hand that he's sitting next to rather than watching the show. And she, this upsets her, so she leaves his clothes outside the bedroom door. And that's just so impactful because it also leads into the best scene of the film where Lenny and Felicia have this argument about hate and anger, and she says how it's draining to love and accept someone who doesn't do the same for themselves. Just a really powerful moment, even if it does finish with Snoopy in the Thanksgiving parade going behind the window. I think the sadness at the lunch where Felicia says, she's sitting there with her daughters and she talks about there's this guy that she thought she might have been interested in, and it comes out that he just wanted her advice to date another guy, and she's like, I seem to be attracted to a certain type of guy, with this guy blowing her off, and then she says, she's always known who Lenny is, and he hasn't failed her, and it's her own arrogance to think that she could survive on what he could give. Like, that's just so sad that one man can have so much power over someone. And I guess that final shot of Felicia just before the title of Maestro comes up, the first time it comes up again, but the first time we have this shot of her in black and white, and then she turns her back. I don't know. I just really wish that was her turning her back on him. That would have made me feel really good. This is probably a very different take to what most people are expecting on this film. I think things that I didn't like. There's a sailor dance sequence. Just didn't feel it. It just didn't sit right for me. Lenny meeting up with David, his wife Ellen, and their kid. And he just said, the kid's young, but he says, I slept with both your parents. Just that arrogance from the guy. That just really upset me. I think Lenny cracking onto this guy at this party, a party at their house, and then kissing him in the corridor, and then Felicia sees it. I don't know, it just felt really, really horrible for her. I really didn't like it when Lenny sits with his daughter and lies about the rumours about him. And then, because we see him calling her later, wanting to talk to her about a guy, and she's like, don't talk to me about this, Daddy. Just, he doesn't even care for his kids. That really upset me. I know a lot of people think that conducting scene that we spoke about before, about how much work Cooper put into, learning how to conduct and doing it in one take and all that sort of stuff. I hated it. I thought it was boring, and it just felt like this sick joke about Bradley Cooper saying, how hard is it to write, direct, and star in a film? It just really frustrated me. And then Felicia saying that, she's there watching it after they've had this argument, and she's there, and she says, I see no hate in your heart. It just made it so much harder to like either of these characters. Really frustrating. And then finally, the doctor's scene. They go to the doctor's office, and they get some bad news about Felicia's health. This was literally just so the two of them could cry for an Oscars package. That's all that was for. That wasn't needed. If you're a creative person, you know how to get this across without needing to do that. That frustrated me too. All right, themes, ideas. What's this film trying to say? That idea of love. Obviously, it's complicated. You've got to live your own truth and accept yourself, and you can't do that without loving yourself and showing love to someone else. that idea of depression too, that the impact of fame, jealousy leaking in when it could all be part of your mind as well. This film is about art too. It's a very arty film, and that quote at the start, it's about art. Art not answering questions. It provokes them. It's an essential meaning in the tension between contradictory answers. I like that idea. I like the idea of art being something, and that's my interpretation here. Is I'm not a huge fan. That's fine. People can disagree with me, but this really frustrated me a little bit, this film. I think also that idea of luck. Is luck something, or is it hard work and dedication with a bit of sacrifice as well? These all work together to get to places that people want to go. All right, what did I take away from this film? I spoke about this before a little bit with the scenes I liked, but the transitions, the aspect ratios, the color changes, black and white for the happy-go-lucky times of old school Hollywood, and that love and that courting and that idea, and then the change to color of the troubled times and the troubled relationships. I like that, and the music choices, they're all so well done. It's just so disappointing that the storytelling gave you nothing to empathize with Lenny over at all, especially when the film is about him. So that really was a bit of a frustration for me. Questions, ponderings, thoughts, ideas. I think I found it, I've said this 1,000 times, but I found it so hard to empathize with either character. Like this film, it celebrates his art. It still shows his flaws. I get that. But I still couldn't relate, or I still couldn't feel anything for this guy, because he just felt like he just wasn't a nice guy. Felicia, I felt so bad for her. Like, did she actually enable him to make great music? Was it her? If he wasn't with her, would he not be making good music? That's a possibility, because I feel like this story, and obviously Carey Mulligan, I mentioned before, has top billing. So maybe this film is about her and her ability to make him who he was. And maybe that's a happy ending that I need from this film. And he seemed like Lenny. He seems like the kind of guy who would be cancelled today, realistically. But we're watching this film that's got Oscar buzz about it, and it's this guy that was a bit of a creep. He was touching, he was feeling, he was making moves on people. Just because it's the same sex, he was doing it to men, doesn't make it right. I still find it weird that this is someone that was held on a pedestal and still is. Like, we've cancelled Cosby because of the horrible things he did. It seems like this guy did some pretty ordinary things too. This is just a weird observation, but I couldn't help but get these Ralph Fiennes vibes from Schindler's List about Lenny. It was like that. Maybe that's why I really didn't like him, because the accent, the performance, it really reminded me of Schindler's List, and a character which Schindler's List is such a good film, and a character I absolutely hate. He really reminded me of him. So maybe that's why I'm so negative on this. All right, I'm ready to wrap this up. Thanks for sticking it out. This take's probably going to be controversial, but we give the film a rating out of 5. For me, I wanted to like this more than I did. Like I've mentioned, the performances, they're great. The way it looks, it's good. It just didn't resonate with me on a character level. I think this is the second best film about conductors that I've seen the last year. Obviously, Tar with Cate Blanchett is a much better film. Give that a watch instead. I'm still giving this a 3.5 out of 5, just for the way it's been put together, the way it looks, etc. But 3.5 out of 5 for me. We're on socials. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook and X, which is formerly known as Twitter. This is me, just this idea. The question I want to put out on socials is this film arrogance from Cooper? Is this him saying, I can do it all? I'm like Bernstein. I can do it all. I don't know. I'm exhausted from this. I'm exhausted from Podmas. We've still got, what are we now? We've still got 2 episodes to come. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Stick it out with us. We're heading towards Christmas. I'm excited. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We've got 350 or so episodes on Netflix original films in our catalogue. Give us a search, give us a look, give us a find, give us a listen, give us a like. Appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the morning for our next day of Podmas.